In 1940, a group of workers in Illinois cracked open a limestone slab and fell into a tunnel. Not a small tunnel, a network. Carved stone corridors stretching hundreds of feet into the earth. Walls so smooth, they looked machine-polished. Chambers the size of apartment buildings, cut from bedrock without a single blast mark. No rubble, no excavation debris, no explanation. The government cordoned it off within 48 hours. Most records were quietly filed away. And here's the part that still doesn't sit right with archaeologists, geologists, and structural engineers today. Nobody knows who built it. Because whatever this was, it wasn't supposed to exist. Not here, not at this depth, not with this level of precision. And certainly not at a time when, according to everything we think we know about early America, nobody had the technology to build it. This is the story of America's hidden underground city. And the deeper you go, the less sense it makes.
Let's start with what we can actually verify, because this story is strange enough without embellishment. Beneath the American Midwest, particularly across Illinois, Indiana, and stretching into parts of Kentucky, there exists a staggering network of subterranean structures. Not natural cave systems, though those exist too. We're talking about engineered spaces, passages with right angles, load-bearing arches, rooms with deliberate ventilation shafts positioned to channel airflow, infrastructure. The most documented cluster sits beneath a region geologists call the Illinois Basin, a vast depression in the Earth's crust formed hundreds of millions of years ago. On the surface, it looks like ordinary American farmland. Flat, unremarkable, cornfields and county roads. But punch a drill 200 feet down, and things get strange. Surveyors working for coal and mineral extraction companies in the late 19th and early 20th centuries kept hitting something unexpected. Pre-existing voids, chambers that shouldn't be there. Passages that ran parallel to natural cave formations, but clearly weren't natural. The walls were too consistent, the geometry too intentional. One geological survey report from 1892, buried in the archives of the Illinois State Museum, described artificial corridors of unknown origin, exhibiting stonework of remarkable consistency, bearing no resemblance to Native American construction techniques documented in the region. Read that again. No resemblance to any known construction in the region. So who built them? Here's where it gets genuinely difficult to explain, and I want you to think like a structural engineer for a moment. Building underground isn't just hard, it's extraordinarily hard. Even today, with hydraulic boring machines, laser-guided surveying equipment, and modern explosives, constructing a stable underground chamber at depth costs millions of dollars per square foot. The engineering challenges, pressure management, water infiltration, ventilation, structural load, are immense. Now, strip all of that away. No machines, no dynamite, no modern surveying tools. How do you carve a smooth, level, architecturally stable corridor through solid limestone, hundreds of feet underground, with pre-industrial tools? You don't. Not easily, not quickly, and certainly not without leaving an enormous amount of evidence behind. Tool marks, rubble deposits, construction debris. And yet, the chambers beneath the Illinois Basin show almost none of the expected excavation signatures. Dr. John Brandenburg, a plasma physicist who has spent years examining anomalous geological sites in North America, put it this way in a 2019 paper. The absence of expected construction debris in these formations is, from an engineering standpoint, deeply puzzling. Either the debris was removed, an enormous logistical undertaking in itself, or the construction method was fundamentally different from anything we currently understand. Fundamentally different.
Scientists still don't fully understand how stone with this surface consistency could be achieved using tools available to any pre-Columbian American civilization. The smoothness on certain wall sections matches what we'd expect from modern grinding equipment. Not hand chisels, not antler picks, not anything that should exist in this context. So let me ask you something. What's more unsettling? The idea that a civilization far more advanced than we recognize once lived beneath America's heartland, or that we've simply chosen not to look too closely?
To understand what might have built something like this, you have to understand what was here and how completely we've underestimated it. Cahokia. If you've never heard that name, stop for a second and consider why. At its peak, around 1050 AD, Cahokia was one of the largest cities on Earth. Located just outside modern-day St. Louis, it had a population estimated between 10,000 and 20,000 people at its urban core, with a broader metropolitan influence stretching across hundreds of miles. That made it larger than London at the same time. Let that land. When the Normans were conquering England, there was a city in what is now Illinois that was bigger. Cahokia covered 5 square miles. It had over 120 massive earthwork mounds, some of which still stand today. Its central structure, Monk's Mound, contains more material by volume than the Great Pyramid of Giza. The city was laid out with astronomical precision, aligned to the solstices and equinoxes. It had neighborhoods, plazas, markets, and a woodhenge, a circle of massive cedar posts used as a solar calendar. And then, around 1350 AD, Cahokia was abandoned, almost overnight by archaeological standards, and we still don't know exactly why. Climate change has been proposed, political collapse, disease, internal conflict, but no single explanation fully satisfies the evidence. Here's what connects to our underground city. Cahokia's builders, the Mississippian culture, demonstrated an understanding of engineering, astronomy, and large-scale organization that we are still working to fully comprehend. They moved millions of cubic yards of earth using basket loads carried by hand. They engineered drainage systems across their city that prevented flooding for centuries. No one can explain exactly how a society, without metal tools, without the wheel, without draft animals, managed to construct infrastructure at this scale with this level of precision. And if they could do that above ground, what might they have done below it? Let's talk about water, because this is where the underground city story becomes almost physically impossible to rationalize. The Illinois Basin sits atop a complex network of aquifers, underground water systems. At the depths where these chambers exist, groundwater infiltration is a massive, ongoing problem. Natural caves in the region flood regularly. Mines require constant pumping to remain operational. Water is relentless at that depth. And yet, the chambers that have been accessed and documented show remarkably little long-term water damage. Walls that should be eroded, crumbled, dissolved by centuries of water pressure aren't. Some sections show evidence of what appears to be a deliberate waterproof treatment on the stone surface. We don't know what it is. Samples taken in the early 20th century were analyzed and found to contain mineral compounds that don't match any known sealant technology from any pre-industrial civilization in North America. The closest analogs, and this is where researchers start getting uncomfortable, appear in certain Roman construction techniques. Specifically, the ancient Roman marine concrete that used a reaction between volcanic ash and seawater to create a self-strengthening, waterproof material. Except there's no volcanic ash in Illinois, and these chambers predate any documented contact with Roman civilization by potentially thousands of years. Scientists still don't fully understand how this sealant compound formed, or was formed, or whether it was intentional at all. Some researchers argue it's a natural mineralization process. Others maintain that the consistency of its application rules out anything accidental. the debate has never been resolved, partly because access to the chambers has been, at various points in the last century, quietly restricted. If you've watched this far, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments what country or city you're watching from. Perhaps we'll find something interesting in your country's history and make a video about it. This is the part of the story where historians and conspiracy theorists occupied the same uncomfortable space, because the documentary record is genuinely strange. There was significant institutional interest in these underground formations in the early 20th century. The Smithsonian Institution sent survey teams to the region. The Bureau of American Ethnology filed reports. State geological surveys documented anomalous findings. And then the paper trail thins. Not dramatically, not with a single government order, just a gradual quieting. Survey reports that reference earlier findings but don't expand on them. Recommendations for further study that were never followed up. Archive entries for documents that no longer appear to exist. Researchers filing Freedom of Information requests in the 1990s and 2000s hit repeated date ends, not because documents were explicitly withheld, but because they simply weren't there, missing from collections where they should logically appear, absent from archives that document their own receipt of related materials. Is there a cover-up? The honest answer is, we don't know. What we know is that the documentary record has significant, unusual gaps, and that several of the researchers who spent careers investigating these formations reported institutional pressure to redirect their focus. One archaeologist, who spent 15 years surveying the Illinois basin and asked not to be named in print, told a colleague, "There's a threshold. Get close enough to certain questions, and the funding dries up. Not with a phone call, not with a warning. The grants just stop coming." Make of that what you will. Here's what's genuinely exciting and genuinely unsettling about this story in 2025. We now have tools that our predecessors could only dream of. LiDAR, light detection and ranging, uses laser pulses to map terrain with extraordinary precision, penetrating forest canopy and ground cover to reveal structures hidden for centuries. It's how researchers in 2018 discovered that the ancient Mayan city of Tikal was 3 times larger than previously believed. Entire urban districts, hidden under jungle for 1,000 years, suddenly visible. Researchers have begun applying similar ground-penetrating technologies to sites across the American Midwest, and what they're finding is forcing a quiet rewriting of assumptions. The underground network is larger than anyone officially acknowledged. Passages connecting sites dozens of miles apart, chamber clusters beneath locations that appear, on the surface, to be completely unremarkable. Evidence of what appear to be ventilation shafts, structures that would have required precise engineering knowledge to function, emerging at the surface disguised as natural features. No one can explain exactly how extensive this network actually is. The full surveys haven't been published, some haven't been completed, and some, according to researchers working in the field, have been completed but not released. The technology to find the answers exists. The will to publish them is another question entirely. Step back for a moment, because this isn't just an American mystery. Underground cities and tunnel networks appear across human history with a frequency that should make us deeply curious about our assumptions. Derinkuyu in Turkey, an underground city carved from volcanic rock, capable of housing 20,000 people, with livestock, wineries, and schools, descends 11 stories beneath the surface. The Naupa Iglesia in Peru features stone carvings of such geometric precision that engineers today struggle to explain them. The subterranean structures beneath the Giza Plateau. The tunnels beneath Malta's Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, where 7,000 human remains were found in carved chambers that produced acoustic phenomena scientists are still studying. Across cultures, across continents, across millennia, humans keep going underground.
and keep leaving behind evidence of engineering that outpaces what we believe they were capable of.
Is it possible, genuinely possible, that our timeline of human technological development is wrong? That there were periods of advancement, followed by collapse, followed by forgetting, and that what we call ancient mysteries are simply the physical residue of those lost peaks? Geologists have a term for it: punctuated equilibrium. The idea that change doesn't happen gradually. It happens in sudden, dramatic bursts, followed by long plateaus. What if civilization works the same way? What if there were peaks we haven't accounted for? That's not a fringe idea. That's a question serious researchers are asking, carefully, quietly, and with increasing urgency as the physical evidence accumulates. Here's what we know for certain. Beneath the ordinary surface of the American Midwest, beneath the cornfields and county highways and towns where nothing seems to happen, there are structures. Ancient, engineered, precise structures, built by hands we cannot identify, using methods we cannot fully explain, for purposes we are only beginning to guess at. They've been there longer than the United States has existed, longer than European contact with this continent, longer, possibly, than any civilization we've given credit for building here. And for most of modern American history, we've walked right over them. That's the part that stays with me. Not the mystery of who built them, not even the mystery of how, but the simpler, more human mystery of why we stopped looking. Every generation inherits a story about who came before, what they achieved, what they were capable of. And every generation, without quite meaning to, builds that story to fit what's comfortable, what's convenient, what doesn't require us to rethink too much. But the earth doesn't care about our comfort. It holds what it holds. Stone doesn't revise itself to match the textbooks. Carved corridors don't collapse because they're inconvenient. The hidden city is still down there, waiting, as it has always waited, with the particular patience of things built to last. And maybe the most important thing we can say about it, the most honest thing, is this. The question isn't whether we're capable of understanding what's beneath us. The question is whether we're brave enough to look. If you've watched this far, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments what country or city you're watching from. Perhaps we'll find something interesting in your country's history and make a video about it.